Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today on Applying to Schools and Programs of Public Health. I'm Tracy Seward. I'm the Senior Director of Outreach and Recruitment at ASPPH, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Quick overview of what we're going to cover, a little bit of background information from me, and then I have two panelists, presenters who are going to speak about the resources that are available to you to help you find your fit for grad school, the application requirements, and your application timeline. We will have time for Q&A at the end, so if you can use the Q&A function on the bar at the bottom to submit any questions you have throughout the presentation, we will address them at the end. With me today are Susanna Chase, the Assistant Dean for Admissions and Enrollment Management at Tulane University School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine, and Todd, Assistant Director of Marketing, Admissions and Recruitment at The Ohio State University College of Public Health. Okay, so first some background information. At the Association of Schools and Programs of Public Health, we have 3 brands that help you find your way to public health. This is Public Health is our awareness building brand. So you'll see that a lot in the resources that Todd and Susie talked to you about today. SOFIA is our application service. It's a centralized application service so that you can submit your applications into one place and apply to many schools and programs. And then we also have publichealthjobs.org, which is our career branch. There are 3 opportunity levels for you to pursue. We are mostly focusing on master's and doctoral work today, but just so you have a broad overview, if you pursue a public health degree at the undergraduate level, you might receive a BA or a BS, and that degree is really going to help you get the lens in which you view the world, and so starting to think about systems and how everything's interconnected in public health. With a bachelor's degree, you can have an entry-level career in health departments, health educators. You could work at a nonprofit or private institution. At the master's level, there's more degree options available to you. Master of Public Health is our most popular. We also have an MS, MHA, they're joint degrees. And these are really going to help prepare you for practicing public health. For many students, it's a terminal degree. You could go for your entire career with an MPH and get quite far. You're going to get more experience level work at the federal and state level, at nonprofits and in the private industry. But then some students will choose to go on for a doctoral degree. You'll see either the DRPH or the PhD. And at that point, you're really focusing on practice and leadership roles, as well as new research. So if you pursue a doctoral degree, you will end up being able to achieve some of the highest leadership positions in research and academia, and then of course, as well as in nonprofits and private industry as well. So this is just a little bit of background information about where our public health students do go. Healthcare organizations are the largest employer of public health graduates. But when you look at it at the degree level, you see that academia is the largest employer for doctoral grads, and for-profits are the largest employers of undergraduate. So it's also worth noting that 28% of undergraduates go on to further study after completing their public health undergraduate degree. And then I just wanted to touch briefly on public health jobs. Again, this isn't exactly what we're talking about today, but I want you to know that it's available as a free resource to you for both job seekers, employers, and it's really a great search engine so that you can start to understand the types of jobs that are available out there for you. And then what I tell students most of the time is that it's a great place to start seeing patterns of what's interesting to you so that you can see if all the jobs that you're interested in are related to maternal and child health, then maybe the area of study you want to focus on is maternal and child health, or if they're all looking for an MS degree, maybe you want to pursue an MS versus an MPH. So just something to check out, publichealthjobs.org. Okay, at this point, I want to turn it over though to Todd and Susie.
Thank you for passing that over. I appreciate everyone coming in. as Tracy mentioned, I am the assistant director for recruitment and admissions at Ohio State University. Obviously, we'd love for you to join us here, but this is more general. We want to make sure that you all understand really the depth and the expansive nature that public health is. So what I'm going to talk about specifically is, how you can start this process to find your respective fit within the many different programs that are offered across the nation. The first thing we're going to really jump into is the areas of study. This can be pretty overwhelming, but just know that public health in general is very broad, and there's many different subsets of programs that you can find at different universities. This is where much of the stuff we're going to talk about is going to take initiative on your end to find your fit and find how each respective university is either going to benefit or maybe not have the programs that are made for you. But just know that there's individuals at each of these universities that wants to help figure that out. So what we're looking at now is just, a general idea of some of the areas of study that you can find when searching areas of public health. So keep in mind, programs are going to call things differently. So when we're looking at this slide, behavioral and social science, community health, health promotion and communication, maternal and child health, minority health and health disparities. While these all look like separate areas of study, there's some universities that would lump all of these into one area, to one MPH program. And I say that because, we do that. I know there's other programs that we work with that do this similar. And they're called, maybe not something exactly like this. So, again, I'll reference Ohio State. We call our program Health Behavior and Health Promotion, right? So that's not on here, but it's not to say that you're not going to find that. Epidemiology, it seems pretty straightforward, but there could also be programs that call it global epidemiology, right? So that's not going to be exactly different than what you're going to be learning at Tulane versus, University of Michigan. But just know that there's going to be some different programs named different things, but at the end of the day, the underlying theme is going to be very similar. There's also going to be programs with obscure programs that you may not know, but the cohort size is going to be smaller, right? So the more obscure you get, the smaller the cohort size. So that's another area where you need to factor in what your fit is. If you want something small, if you want something large, in between that, and what that, faculty to student ratio might be and how that might benefit you. If we move on, where you can really start to hone this in is when you start your, either your SOFIS application, or you can find this on ASPPH.com or .org, is the Academic Program Finder. So we use that area of study, and you start to now, if you have interest in maternal and child health, there's keywords for that. You can type that in and it will give you a really nice list of programs and schools that focus on those areas. And it might not be called that exact program, but they have a specialization or a focus in their college within their MPH that might address maternal and child health outcomes. The same will go with health policy management. Sometimes that will filter into a Master of Health Administration, but there's also going to be health services management and policy MPH programs. So know the subtle differences between what those two degrees are and what the expectations are for said degrees. Again, epidemiology, if you're interested in global health, definitely type that in as a keyword, because there's going to be some programs that will have global health specializations that may require you to do things globally as a part of that applied practical experience, where other programs will just have a global health component within their epidemiology or their community health program. Biostatistics, biomedical informatics, right? We're throwing a lot of words at you, but just know that this is a broad field and you can really, narrow things down, or keep it as broad as you like, and cast that large net when you're going through this process.
Can I just jump in, Todd, real quick?
Please do.
Yeah, so one of the things I like to tell prospective students who may be debating between, because on SOFIS you do have to pick the program, at least with Tulane, you do have to pick the area of focus for your MPH or whatever degree at the time of application. So if you're having trouble deciding between the two, one of the things I like to tell students is go on public health jobs. Go and look up job descriptions for like your dream job, because we understand that public health students have a lot of interests, very broad interests within public health. But if you know that you want to be an epidemiologist, those jobs are more than likely going to require your MPH to be in epidemiology, or at least have that skill set demonstrated through your coursework. But if you're, other jobs might not have preferred qualifications set. So you can kind of be strategic in setting yourself up to be the ideal applicant for those jobs that you're interested in getting. Another thing I want to point out about this academic program finder, if you see the options for like degree, delivery method, you can narrow this down to only online programs, only hybrids, degree type, whatever start. I came from an institution, Oregon State, that only allowed a fall start for the MPH, but now I'm at Tulane and we have starts every single semester. You can also do, I believe there's going to be an additional filter for no GRE required. Tracy, please confirm. I know it's in the works, but yeah, this is a fantastic tool and I would definitely recommend researching it. I think it also will tell you if the application is through SOFIS or not for that program. So you can really kind of get a sense. Later in the presentation, we'll tell you, make sure you check each school and program's website, but this is a good resource if you don't want to do that just for application process. Thanks.
And it does have GREs searchable. I think this was an old screenshot.
Yeah, I mean, those are all great points. I mean, needless to say, there's a lot of information that you can glean from this page in order to really help you make that decision what's best for you. To continue with that theme, there is a digital view book that every program, college, school will put together for ASPPH to distribute to those prospective students. While this information may seem broad, and overwhelming, right? Because there's over 100 schools and programs of public health. This is going to be another tool for you to continue to look at the details specific to what you want. Some of the information that you can get from this, graduating student body. So again, if you want that larger feel of that larger school feel, if you want a smaller, more intimate program, this will help you get that information. To Susanna's point, this will also tell you how programs are delivered, whether it's online only, in person only, or a hybrid. They will clearly state out all three of those. And if a college is predominantly in person, it will tell you the programs that are in person, but it will also let you know that there's an online option as well. There's a part-time option. There's full-time option. So a lot of this information, you can get it from the academic program finder. The digital view book will get that as well. It will give you a location. Granted, it's a somewhat broad location of where that star is located on the United States map, but it can give you a sense of where that university is located. Enrolling semesters. So again, Susanna talked about when programs will enroll their students on the academic program finder. This will confirm that as well. Unique program attributes, that's fun. Even for me, just to look at what other programs are considering, considering how they're unique compared to their peers. This will list all the degree types, right? So some will have, again, dozens and dozens of different degree options, while others will be limited, but they're really focused on making sure that content within those limited programs is the best you can get. So really use this time to figure out what is going to be best for you, and use the contact information. So there will be a contact how you can contact these colleges. While that may look generic in nature, I'm telling you, it is definitely worth sending an email to those pages or to that email handle, because there's admissions folks on the other end that are waiting to answer those questions. I can speak for Susanna and myself that we try to make the best effort we can to be very responsive. I know other programs do that as well. And use the website. So that website is going to be important for you to then take that next step further and look at program directories. So if you're interested, let's say in epidemiology, jump into that program's website, go to their directory and look at what their faculty are doing specifically, whether in research or things outside the classroom. And if some of those fit and align with your interests, that's a really great connection for you, to continue to trace that back as a program that you should definitely consider applying to. So there's a TIFF student ambassador program. We talked about TIFF earlier. This is public health. And this is a national program that students will participate in. You can kind of see here's a small snapshot of different students and University of Michigan, University of Pittsburgh, UAB, students are doing this all across the nation. You're going to have students from UC Berkeley, all the way to Yale, Ohio State. So those students are participating, and it's really great to get their perspective. There's Instagram takeovers. Because they're participating in this ambassador program, that means they're participating in helping you as a prospective student. They were in that position, right? Like 1-2 years prior to that. So their relevance to that timeline for you is very important. And a big reason that these students are becoming ambassadors is because they want to help you, and they want to make sure that you are getting that experience that they probably had or maybe not had going through the application process, because it can feel like you're alone at times, but just know that you're not. There's resources, whether it's very broad generic website resources, all the way through admissions officers to the TIFF student ambassadors. And even beyond TIFF student ambassadors, most programs and colleges will have their own set of student ambassadors as well. So those are current students that you can just take it one step further, right? So, you might work with a student from University of Pittsburgh that can give you some examples of what she went through. But, if you're not really interested in Pittsburgh, you can use her advice and then take that one step further, contact the school, see if they have any current students or student ambassadors, and then continue to dig a little bit deeper on some of those questions that you may want to help get addressed. Overall, we have over 50 TIFF student ambassadors, which is a great number of resources that you can get. And that's going to be different perspectives, right? MPHs across all the different avenues. We have some MHAs, some Master of Health Administration students in there, and some PhD students. So you're going to get a really broad perspective of what those ambassadors look like.
I would just say follow the This is Public Health account on Instagram to see their takeovers. There was just one recently that talked about, they'll do the stories and say, ask me your questions you have about being a current student. And there was one that specifically addressed her decision-making process when she was trying to decide where to go for her degree between multiple schools. So it is really helpful. They do post a lot of, advice for you. I mean, you're the target audience for that account and for those takeovers. So I would highly recommend following them, as well as your schools that you're interested in. Follow them on social media, see what events they're posting about, see if their own ambassador programs do takeovers. There's a lot of really good info and things you can learn about schools just through social media when you're passively doom scrolling at night. So I'd highly recommend that.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. Just, put yourself out there. People are putting information in your hands to learn about. What we're looking at here is TIFF virtual fairs. So now, programs are trying to get to you, and they're offering their services and they're offering their time to meet you in these virtual fairs. So as these are currently set up. This is through a platform called Career Echo. You can see it at the bottom. And, you know, we is relative. The ASPPH Student Services folks will definitely send this information out to all prospective students in order to get, you know, that information out there. But what these essentially are, they're more or less chat rooms. So there's going to be admissions folks from different schools sitting on one end, and we are meeting with students, and it's pretty informal where students come in and out. And I know this because I participate in every one of these. So we, respectively at Ohio State, we block off two-hour segments during the day that these are held. So we have a 2-hour block in the morning and we have a 2-hour block in the afternoon, just to be respectful of the different time zones out there. Because now we're talking internationally, right? So this isn't just specific to the United States, because there's individuals across the world that want to learn more about public health, as we should. So again, these are chat rooms. You can ask questions. You can do private chats. There's going to be some features rolled out where now you can do virtual, you know, video chats. But, you know, a lot of programs are still doing the chat room session with answering the multitude of questions. There's documents that we put in there. Now, albeit some of these documents that are shared in these platforms are going to be generically broad information. So that's when you can read about that information, read the transcript. You know, if you're logging in halfway through their allotted time, go through that transcript. You know, it doesn't hurt to ask the same question, but you might recognize that someone asked a very similar question. They give you that information you know. You can copy and paste that into your database or your spreadsheet that you're building on your side to compare programs. Or you can just introduce yourself and let them know what you're interested in, where you're from, what your background is. And on the back end of this, it's really important to update your personal profile. So, you know, let them know what institution you're at, what your highest degree is, an updated resume. I can speak for many programs that we pull that information and we keep that in our own database, and we keep that in our prospective tool for, you know, individuals that we talk to. Here's a resume, and those things, you know, eventually, you know, start to resonate with admissions officers when you start to see and work with those same individuals. So July, September, November, January, you don't have to log into every one of these. You can if you continue to have questions, but you know, respectively, the application for a new cycle will open in late August. So we'll see a lot of folks in July get a head start on figuring out that information of what it takes to be a good applicant so they can hit the ground running once that application opens. September is another great time. It's early in that application cycle to meet with those programs, get those questions, how you can build your application. November, at this point now, we're starting to get into a lot of programs funding deadlines. And then January, you're right, really in the peak application season. So these are really applicable times. It just depends when when you're hitting that specific timeline as far as when you want to apply, when you want to start getting this information. So spaced out. There's times in between that though where you can also meet with these different programs. So these were virtual fairs that we were doing, more or less chat rooms. So now we're going to talk about TIFF mini fairs. So TIFF mini graduate fairs is same kind of concept, but now we're virtually talking through video. And this is going to be a cluster of 8 to 10 public health schools across the nation will have different opportunities to meet with students. They're going to be offered throughout the fall. So now we're talking September through November on weekdays. And, these are going to be 2-hour segments. The first 30 to 45 minutes, maybe the first hour, I can't remember, Tracy. But the first part is going to be, it's going to allow the 8 to 10 different programs or schools a quick elevator pitch, right? So we're talking a 5 to 7 minute kind of broad generic run through of what their programs have, some unique attributes, and this will give you an opportunity to just get that broad information that you might need from these programs. However, the last hour you're now able to jump in and out of breakout sessions with those same 8 to 10 programs from across the nation. So look at this calendar. These are all events that are posted, and it's a really great opportunity for you to stumble across programs that you may never dreamt of applying to, but something resonated that they said they had. You jumped into their breakout session, and you had a really nice interaction. And those are opportunities that you may not get, just looking at their website, looking at those previous, while they're great resources, these are just more resources that help you affirm that decision that you're going to make down the road. Did I miss anything on those mini fairs? Okay, perfect. We talked about social media, right? Like we're putting stuff out there. Follow these channels. They're going to give you great information that you're going to need. They're putting in the different events in there. There will be in-person events. There's going to be one in San Francisco, I believe at the end of October. APHA, the annual, the Association for Public Health. I'm butchering the acronym, but
American Public Health Association.
Thank you.
Yeah.
APHA will have their annual meeting in Boston in November. So that's another opportunity for you to connect with different programs at This Is Public Health Fair in conjunction with that conference.
Also, just check out each school or program that you're interested. Check out their admissions page. I know Todd and I, both our schools, list out all the recruitment events that we're going to be at or have an admissions counselor presence at. And they might be like I just did Louisiana State University Health Professions Fair a couple months ago. I know Todd's been on the road as well. So there might be opportunities to connect in person, hopefully, right, as we all open back up. But check that out because you never know if someone's coming to your area. I know both of our schools tend to go pretty nationwide on our reach for recruitment. Your schools of interest might too.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. As much as we love to travel, it's more about meeting our students where they are because we understand that not everyone can visit us. Lastly, additional resources. Funding is important. We understand that, and we value your, your interest in learning more about funding. Programs will have funding opportunities listed on their website. Look at those. Ask questions. Right? Not everything is always posted. Things just kind of happen organically, and those could be opportunities. I hate saying right place, right time, but that truly is something that happens in graduate admissions. However, you can do your due diligence, be proactive, put yourself out there. And look at the school's funding opportunities, but also look at outside sources. And this is one of those outside opportunities to find funding within the world of public health, where ASPPH has a financing your degree page. And I know Suzanne and I regularly share this with almost every one of our admitted students. So this information is out there. It's great. We highly recommend that you use this as an additional resource. And I am going to turn this over to my colleague.
All right, well, you should be ready to apply by now. So let's go through all the steps. Next slide, please. Let's get right into it. So a lot, but not all of the programs and schools will use SOFIS. You might be familiar with SOFIS, even if you haven't done your research into graduate public health. SOFIS, I kind of describe it as like the Common App for schools of public health. It's really convenient if you're planning to apply to, more than a handful of programs. You create one account and you can go into like add a program, and it's literally just checking boxes for the programs that you want to add to your application. You can see it's got 4 sections: your personal information, academic history, and I do want to just kind of broadcast this. For entering your coursework into SOFIS, it is a lengthy process and comprehensive. SOFIS is going to want to know every single class that you took at the college level, regardless of if you graduated from there. If it shows up as transfer credit on a different transcript, they're still going to want to see that transcript, and they're still going to want you to list it out as a college attended. Supporting information. You can kind of mark your progress by that green bar that you can see in academic history. If the section is already complete, it'll be all green and you can move forward. Program materials are going to be related to the individual programs that you've added to your application. So like, and we'll get to this later, if there is an additional document required, like a writing sample for a doctoral application, they will not let you submit the application until you've submitted the required documentation they're asking for. So how to create a stellar application. Most schools will now say that they're doing a holistic admissions review process, where the ultimate goal of that is to have the faculty or reviewers assess whether you're going to be successful in their program. All parts of this application are going to be important. Everything from your personal statement, your GPA, letters of recommendation, any prior experience you have, everything. So put everything on your application because I know my faculty definitely will read through all of it. Even if it's like, I know a lot of students will email asking questions like, oh, well, this experiences section on Sophus, it's the same thing that's on my resume. Should I put it twice? Yes. Copy and paste it directly from one to the other, fill out all the sections because I know my faculty are definitely reading all of it. So here are some general materials that most schools and programs are going to require. Those will be your official transcripts, any standardized test scores. Actually, the past couple of years, we've seen a real trend of moving away towards requiring the GRE. A lot of schools have waived it temporarily for the past couple cycles just because of COVID, but some have done away with it entirely. Definitely be sure to check the website of the school or program that you're applying to see whether it's necessary or even if they're accepting scores at all. Some aren't. 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. You'll want to be strategic in who you ask to write these letters of recommendation. Obviously, don't pick a friend or family member, but even in a professional capacity, give some thought to who knows you best and who's going to write the most convincing letter of support for you. So like if you've got a full tenured professor and you never talk to them in office hours, they're going to write a paragraph saying you were good, you got to be in their class, whatever. Or do you go to the TA who you've gone to their office hours, you've talked about your passion for public health and your goals, and who can write like a glowing reference for you? Definitely go with the one who's going to write the stronger reference regardless of title. That would be my advice. Your resume or CV, go to your career center if you're a current student or have someone look at it. Even just Google resume format, get some ideas, clean that up. It's also a good place to showcase any prior experience. Statement of purpose, this is absolutely key. This is your chance to sell yourself and market yourself to whoever is reading your application. Definitely want to make sure, actually, wait, I think that's the next slide too. Yeah, tell your story. Yeah, perfect. So you'll want to write a clear narrative that demonstrates why this is the right program for you, why public health is for you, what your discipline, your goals within your discipline, and why specifically this school or program. Do not submit something that looks like you could just Control H and replace one school's name with another. We'll know if it's not specific enough. Go to their website. Look and see on their website what they're bragging about, reference that stuff, reference and name drop faculty members that you'd be interested in working with and learning from. Definitely have a look on their website to see if they have a specific prompt, and always have someone else review this before you upload it. At the point that you're ready to submit your personal statement, you've likely been going over this document. You've got tunnel vision by now. You're going to miss grammar mistakes. Take it to your career center, writing center, even a friend that you think is a good writer. Have somebody look at it before you submit it. And not the admissions staff on the other end. That's not appropriate, but someone else.
Real quick to touch on these last 2 slides, ton of great information. One question I saw about transcripts. Some universities will take unofficial transcripts for review purposes only. WES is preferred, as those official transcripts are in that packet. But there are going to be some programs and universities that will take unofficial transcripts, and they can use those for review purposes only. If/when admitted, that's when you would need that official transcript to then be sent in order to properly enroll. And then also, Susanna's talking about work experience and how that can relate to your programs. There's going to be programs out there that will say preferred. We want X amount of experience preferred. Preferred is different than required, right? So don't get intimidated by that. Work experience can come in different forms and fashions. So what we recommend, and a lot of institutions will recommend, is use those traits, use those skills that you've developed in some of those work positions. Those are transformative skills that you can then relate to the profession or the field that you want to get into, whether it's epidemiology, community health, healthcare administration, right? There's skill sets that are unique to each of those programs, and you're developing those, right? Don't discredit, don't put yourself down that you're not up to this. You are. Pull those skill sets out. Even more importantly, if you're pulling those skills that you're acquiring at those experiences, if those letters of recommendation are from those experiences, let them know, hey, I'm going to utilize, or I'm going to talk about this skill and that skill. Can you please touch on that? That letter of recommendation lines up with your personal statement. That's a really great connection for faculty reviewers.
Yeah, definitely. Everything Todd just said, absolutely. Okay, yeah, so application timeline. Todd kind of touched on this earlier as well, but the timeline is going to be general and it'll vary based on the program or school. Just as an overview, the SOFIS application will open on August 18th. And then that will be for the following year, or for spring of 23 going forward. Spring 23, fall 23, yeah, spring, summer, and fall, that's how it goes. Perfect. And so each school will have their own deadline. You can see what the deadlines are in the ASPPH program finder on school or program websites and on SOFIS. They won't let you submit the application for a program if the deadline for that program has already passed. But some schools will set up like a priority deadline and then a final deadline. SOFIS will allow you to submit until the final deadline passes. April 15th is a really great time. It's a very exciting time for us. Actually, it is our deposit deadline for most programs, or confirmation deadline to let us know whether you're going to accept or decline the offer of admission. That was council and graduate schools like resolution for April 15th to prevent schools from pressuring the students to, answer their offer before April 15th. It's to prevent that, so the students have the opportunity to weigh out all of their different options and have a communal deadline to get that decision back to us. And then some schools will have their final deadlines a bit earlier. I know for my on-campus programs at Tulane, the final deadline on SOFIS to apply isn't until June 1, so plug there's still a little time. And then our online programs is still accepting applications, not through SOFIS, but through our own website until August 1. So the range of deadlines is really variable. Definitely just check the website of the school that you're applying to for that one to make sure that you're within. Also, if you miss the deadline, reach out to their admissions people, because you never know. I feel like I give people extensions constantly just because we want you to be able, to go for what you want to do. I think that's a lot of us.
Yeah,
Andrew, I see your question. Not everyone has rolling admissions. I
Right.
do personally, but check the school.
Great. Thank you both so much. I think there was a lot of really fantastic information in that presentation. All right. And I know that the students have been engaged. There's a ton of questions in the Q&A. So I do just want to remind everybody, we will be looking at the Q&A mostly for questions. So if you have a question, go ahead and enter it in there. And I will go ahead and bring some up. All right, so can you, you all talked about GRE program, whether or not institutions are requiring the GRE. I don't know if you want to mention whether your specific institutions are requiring the GRE, but I do want to plug what Susanna said at the beginning, that on the academic program finder, you can see who's requiring GREs or not, but you all both want to take that on for your own institutions.
So our MPH and MHA degrees, we waived the GRE permanently. Those are our practical degrees. But for our MS and PhD, the more concentrated slash academic degree seeking programs, we are still requiring the GRE. There's potential for one-off waivers, and we're on the back end as a committee, admissions committee, to discuss what that might look like moving forward. But for now, we are still requiring the GRE for the MS and PhD programs.
No GRE here. We have waived it temporarily for all of our graduate programs application requirements due to COVID ongoing. I am hopeful that we will be able to have a faculty vote and do away with it for good, but that's still to be determined. But for now, if you're applying this upcoming year, you do not have to submit the GRE.
Yeah, I think you actually touched on this, but if the school is GRE optional, is it a good idea to still take it? What either of you?
It's really not. I think it can get tricky, and I understand the question because people who tend to submit their GRE scores when it is optional are people who have already taken the test and they're like, well, I might as well pay $200 for this. And if they did good. So I think that looking at the scores, it certainly does not count against you to not submit the scores. And I think unless you did really fantastic, I wouldn't, if you're trying to decide whether to take it or not, and like maybe only one of your schools has optional, I wouldn't, frankly, I would not. Just, it's not going to count against you is the answer.
And most programs are redacting it from the application, right? So like to Susanna's point, if you did really well and you wanted to report it, but then you learn that programs are redacting it, obviously there's ways around it, personal statement, but we can't tell you that specifically. So rule of thumb, both of us agree that if things are optional, don't take it. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of stress and anxiety that you don't need to put on yourself, because this is already stressful, right? And that's where individuals like Susanna and myself want to relieve that stress and help you as much as we can. We don't want this to be a burden on you. So, you know, let us know, let people know how they can help.
So I know we talked mostly about the application overview, and we're talking in general about masters, but there's a question here if the application process looks different for a doctoral student. Can you all talk about that?
Check the website. That's going to be the answer because it's going to vary by program. For me, our PhD application is also through SOFIS. It's the same steps. The only thing that's different is for master's programs, we only require 2 letters of recommendation, but for the doctoral, we do require 3. We also have a brand new online DRPH program, so that wouldn't be through SOFIS. It would be handled through just our internal application process, since we use that for online programs, and this is an online degree, but that's it.
That's nice. I didn't know you had DRPH. That's cool. The PhD application process can be different. You know, I was answering one of the questions. There's going to be some programs that will allow you to enroll in a PhD or apply to a PhD directly out of undergrad or with just an undergraduate degree, while other PhD programs may require a master's. Case in point, our epidemiology program requires a master's. Our health behavioral health promotion does not. So, you know, within one college, right, we have 2 different requirements for PhDs. It's also important to, you know, as a PhD, you're going to have a little bit more experience doing research. You're going to need that to find a program that's going to fit your research and your skill set to make sure that alignment's there. That's a big part of that PhD process. There's a mentorship part. Obviously, the academics goes without saying, but there's a faculty mentorship that wants to happen. And programs want to be in a place where they can properly mentor you based on your skill set and how it aligns with that program. So, do your due diligence to make sure that they can properly support your skill set and ideally fund that PhD as well.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I was thinking just like operationally, is it the same process? But yes, it is a very different process for applicants. So thanks, Todd, for that quick check on that. I think one of the other questions that comes up a lot is, do I need to reach out to faculty to have someone agree to be my mentor like before applying? And that may also vary by school, but regardless of that, I think it is a good idea for PhD students to reach out to, well, first to demonstrate that you've done your research, go through the faculty profiles on the websites, make sure that there is a fit between your interests and the faculty's interest, because like Todd said, it's kind of a symbiotic relationship that you have with your doctoral student and faculty, because we want to be able to provide like a sufficient level of mentorship within that area of interest, but also like you need to be kind of up on like if they fund you through a grant or something, you need to be able to pick that up. So PhD admissions is so much about fit that I would recommend reaching out to faculty you'd be interested in working with, in a mentorship capacity. For master's programs, it's nice to reach out, but it's not as necessary. We do still assign a faculty advisor, and we try to do that based on interest or preference. Not always possible, but we do try. For PhD, that fit is essential. So absolutely do your research. I think the ASPPH program finder for keywords, narrow that down to doctoral and see what comes up there.
Thank you. So there's a bunch of questions in here about SOFIS fee waivers. So one of you want to touch on that, and I'm going to snag the URL about the fee waivers while you do.
Yeah, so SOFIS handles their own fee waivers since they're an outside company that's not affiliated with either of our institutions or any other institution that uses it. So I know SOFIS provides fee waivers for a bunch of different service organizations like McNair, I think AmeriCorps, military veterans and active service members. Tracy's getting the list for you, but you can see everything. And then they do have a limited number of low income fee waivers as well. So you just apply through the instructions on the link that Tracy's posting. And that's how you do that for SOFIS. But I know we don't provide any SOFIS fee waivers at our school.
Thank you. So yeah, that's applicants can apply, you get one fee waiver. It covers your first application fee. And again, that link I shared on the chat is all the details on that. Okay, let's see where we want to go to now. Can you talk about whether the recommendations need to be from a faculty member?
Well, it depends on the program. I know we keep saying that, and it truly does depend on the program. And again, just to give you a real life example, our epidemiology programs, most of our MPH in general, will want at least one or two from a faculty member, and it depends, right? If you're just graduating from undergrad, then you should definitely have at least one or two letters from a faculty. And then that third, if they do require three, could be from a professional source. Our Master of Health Administration, they lean heavily on professional experience letters of recommendation, while they really only want to see maybe a letter from a faculty. But then, not to muddy up the waters, but there's going to be online or part-time professional programs. So we have an online part-time professional where it's really hard for those individuals to get a faculty letter because they're 5 to 20 years removed from undergrad. So that's when we rely on those individuals to have professional letters of recommendation.
Yeah, I would just echo that. I would say that if possible, it is great, even if you graduated a while ago. It's wonderful if you can have someone who can speak to your academic capability, even if it's like you took you know, a one-off graduate level class at some other university. If you can demonstrate, you know, academic capability beyond what your transcript is going to show, I think that's always helpful. Although, like Todd said, you know, particularly with online programs, we do have a bunch of people returning to school from the workforce after being out for a while. So we understand that it is tough to get that. So, yeah.
Great. There are a bunch of questions in here that I would say, I really want to reiterate what Todd and Susie have been saying this whole presentation. Make sure you check with each program or school that you're interested in applying to confirm the details of their requirements and their deadlines and all of that. Also about there's a question about whether or not programs will be removing GREs more in the future. And I will say that there's a lot of talk across a lot of our institutions, but I can't say for sure who is going to keep that policy and who will be moving away from it. But again, checking with the institutions that you're interested in are the best options. So if you don't have an undergraduate degree in public health, or you don't have any coursework in statistics, do you suggest taking classes before you apply?
Sorry, so the question is, if you don't have an undergrad degree in public health, would you recommend stats? I mean, God, yeah. So biostatistics will be part of like the core curriculum that all MPH students take. So if stats scares you in any way, I would absolutely recommend taking that knowledge. Undergraduate public health degrees, like as a major, is pretty new still to the undergrad world. So we are certainly not expecting everyone who comes into a graduate public health program to have that public health undergrad education background. Actually, we are such a broad, you know, discipline that we have students coming from STEM, we have people coming from sociology, psychology. It's really, I would say not required, but again, check your program or school website. I think that if the statistics component scares you in any way, it's a good idea, especially if you're still an undergrad, to take a class, even if it's not a requirement for your major. But again, it's not going to count against you unless you're applying for like biostatistics degree, in which case they'll be like, why hasn't this person done the math? So it's, yeah.
Yeah, and this is actually a really good question that we didn't really address. The majors that come to public health are broad. Like I literally met with a history major today. They have nothing to do with public health, but the history of public health could be a really cool thing for them to, you know, learn more about and use that skill set. Part of what we're doing. So we got rid of the GRE for MPH MHA. We asked a question specific in our application that asks applicants to address their quantitative background to date. A big part of what universities do in public health, when they look at the GREs, their eyes go directly to the quantitative section. So this could be, you know, this is our opportunity to eliminate the GRE, but still figure out if someone is quantitatively capable of getting through the program. To Susanna's point, especially in biostatistics and epidemiology, where that's going to have some quant heavy workloads. You know, the community health, the health disparities, the health behavioral health promotions of the world, those are a little bit less quantitatively, you know, rigorous, but there's going to be some evidence needed for a quantitative background.
So similar question about educational background, but if you don't have experience in public health, I know we talked about this a little bit, but is public health experience required?
It'll depend on the school and program. I know our programs, we get students from undergrad directly all the time. So I think what I would want to see in that personal statement is that if this person doesn't have any educational or work experience with public health, I want to know that you understand what public health is. And I want to see that like your goals from what I want to see that you've done the research, basically, that you know what this degree could get you in terms of career opportunities, that you've done the research and you know what you're getting into. But I don't think it would disqualify you in any way to not have prior experience or educational background in public health. We just want to know that you know what you're getting into, basically.
That's exactly right.
Okay, this is a little bit different, kind of a fun question, because having gone through the application process myself, can you talk about how long it takes to receive an admissions decision and at what point you would suggest following up with the admissions office?
Oh, I've seen a decision take as little as 3 days, but as long as 3 to 4 months. Generally, I can't speak for everyone, but we try to adhere. We do rolling admissions at Ohio State. So once your application is completed, you will get a notification once you're put into review. From that point, we really try to have our faculty reviewers complete their MPH decisions within 2 to 3 weeks. And we're really good at that. PhD, that takes longer. There's a lot to sort through. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. That can take anywhere from a month to, like I said, 3 or 4 months. It doesn't hurt to follow up. No news is good news. I say that quite a bit. But follow up, they'll try to give you the best answer they can within the admissions office. Sometimes they don't know, right? Because these are happening on different levels and different programs. But it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I know for me, I try to do, if you haven't heard anything from the school and like not even that your SOFIS application is complete, absolutely reach out to them, because it's possible that, sometimes we can send emails through SOFIS if you're missing documents or parts of your application, but sometimes they go to spam. We can actually see in SOFIS like whether you've opened that email that lets you know about missing documents. So sometimes we will send that email out, but then if it goes into your junk folder, you don't get it, but we think we've notified you. So it's totally worth reaching out for that. If you've gotten an email confirming, I like to give an estimated timeline, like you should hear back with us within a month is what I say to master's applicants, but for doctoral, we try to let you know as soon as possible. I promise the admissions office is probably not sitting on your decision. We are waiting for faculty to give us the decision so we can get that out. For doctoral, I know I still have students who applied in like December for our doctoral program, and we're waiting to hear back from other offers. So you might be on like kind of an invisible, unspoken wait list. It is always worth reaching out. I would say if you haven't heard back within a month for master's is what I would give it. And then doctoral, just know that, like Todd said, there are so many factors that go into doctoral admissions that it can and will often take a long time. But I think it is always worth asking.
All right, we are right out of time and we will not get to all the questions that are in there. Unfortunately, I did want to have 2 clarifying questions. One, a question that was about our grad fairs. We do not offer admission at the grad fairs. These are just informational sessions for you all to attend and learn more about the programs and schools that might be a good fit for you as you pursue your graduate degree. And then one last link I'm putting in the chat again is the financing your degree. site hosted on ASPPH so that you can find scholarships outside of the university that might help you fund your degree. So thank you all so much for your time, for attending this webinar today. And thank you, of course, to Susanna and Todd for presenting all this information. I really appreciate your time as well. We have a lot more events happening this week and always again throughout the year. So check out this publichealth.org/events for everything going on. And I hope to see you all again soon. Thank you. Have a great day.